Good day, ladies and gentlemen. This is Sarel van Grenen, aka Mr. VG, and man, this is an exciting time of the year. This is the time of the year where you can slowly but surely start focusing on your exams coming up. Those upcoming exams that count so much. Well, what we are going to look at in this specific series of videos is not just working through exams and monkey see, monkey do, yes, 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 I know. But I want you to get into my mind and get into why I do what I do. What kind of things do I look for when I'm solving a problem? So join me on this journey, and this specific video is about equations and inequalities, looking at working through question 1.1 of the November 2021 exam for mathematics. When we look at this question, it's relatively straightforward. Solve for x. So I'm going to ask you to hit the pause button, try these sums yourself, then you come back and you're going to do this. You're going to ace this, but I'm going to help you. So let's look at the only formula that I am going to look at. The only formula I'm going to look at is this one, the quadratic formula. It's the only one on your formula sheet that I'm going to look at for this specific video. Question 1.1, straightforward quadratic equation. So I need to have equal to naught. Once it's equal to naught, I'm either going to factorize, or I'm going to do the quadratic formula, or I'm going to complete the square. But I don't like completing the square, not because I can't do it, but because my students mess it up so badly. In paper 2, we're going to use the completing the square method. So let's look at this. I'm going to start by factorizing a trinomial. So, of course, we're going to start with the x and the x to give me x squared. Looking at the factor pairs of 24, I'm going to pick the one that is 2 from each other. In other words, where the difference between them is 2, because I want to get to that 2 there. So I'm going to say, well, x minus 6 is 0 or x plus 4 is 0. Leaving me with x equal to 6 or x equal to negative 4. Just a gentle reminder that it's not that you now have an option. I can choose which one. No, it's more that there are two different options. Let's look at the next one. 1.1.2. 2x squared minus 3x minus 3 equal to 0. It's quadratic, so I need equal to 0. And then they say 2 decimal places. So I know I've got to look at the quadratic formula. I know it. It's that dead giveaway. So A is 2, B is negative 3, and C is negative 3. I'm going to just plonk it in, just substitute that in, and get my answer. The first then says x is 3 plus minus the root of 33 over 4. But they want 2 decimal places. So I've got x equal to 2,168 or 0,686 ... To 2 decimal places is 2,17. Just again remember that 8 at the after the 6 makes the 6 a 7. The same with the 6 behind the 8 on the second option. Makes the 8 a 9. Now you might look at this and go, but wait, so your answers are different from mine. I know it. I know it. I made a silly mistake. But I realized my mistake after I wrote it down, and I kept it in because I wanted you guys to see my thinking. If I type this in correctly in my calculator, it's actually negative 0,69. But what made me think that it's a mistake. Well, what made me think of that? Sure, try say that 3 times fast. What made me? Oh, getting tongue-tied here. What made me think that there's a mistake was the C being -3. And that C being -3 kind of just showed me, you know what? There should be a difference in the factors, a sign difference. So one should be positive, one should be negative. Therefore, in my answers as well, in my roots, there should be a difference of signs. And that made me go back to my calculator and type it in again. So please always check whether your answers make sense. Looking at question 1.1.3 is arguably the worst answered question in solving of X. It's a one where most of my students lose so many marks because they just run into the question, they don't strategize. It's quadratic, so I need equal to naught. So transposing that -4, I'm sitting with a beautiful quadratic inequality. So I'm going to factorize x plus 4 and x plus 1. But now, what do my students do? Well, a lot of them go and do this. X plus 1 and x plus 4 smaller or equal to naught. And then they solve. And they get 2 out of 4, if they are lucky. Why does this not make sense? Remember what x plus 4 times x plus 1 smaller or equal to means. It means something times by something else must be negative. So in other words, let's look at what we wrote down in that green block. We just said x plus 4 is a negative. And we said x plus 1 is a negative. But if I multiply them, I get a positive answer. So does it satisfy my inequality? No, it doesn't satisfy. So it doesn't make sense. I get very passionate about this because what you write down on paper has to make sense. But then what do I do, sir? The question is, what kind of a function is x squared plus 5x plus 4? It is some function that has 2 critical values. X equal to -4 and x equal to -1. So it crosses the x-axis at -4 and -1. What kind of a function is this? Come on, grade 12s, you can tell me. It's a parabola. So in other words, I can draw my parabola in. And I am specifically looking at the y values that are smaller or equal to naught. So in other words, below the x-axis. So that's that colored in part, which means it's for all the x values between -4 and -1. Or I could write it as x is an element of -4 to -1, but it does touch because it says equals to. Remember to draw a sketch when you've got a quadratic inequality. Please, 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 please do that first thing. Whenever you see that smaller or equal to or bigger than 0, remember, draw a sketch, draw a sketch, draw a sketch. I love this. Don't throw away silly marks because you forget what to do. Now this next question is a favorite that you will also get in the exam. A square root sum. The first thing you always must ask yourself, what kind of a sum is it? It's a square root. So is the square root alone on one side? Yes or no? In this case, yes it is. But what if it wasn't? Well, we are going to look at that in a short while. But first, if it is alone on one side, then I have to square both sides. So if it wasn't alone, let's say it was root of x plus 28 plus x equal to 2. It's exactly the same sum, but my square root is not on its own. What would I have to do first of all? Well, first of all, I have to write it where the root is isolated. Then and only then can I square. So make a note of it, especially if you tend to forget about this small little trick. Big thing. If you take this equation on the right and you square both sides like that, ladies and gents, you get 0 for the sum. Naught. Hana Zigolo. Please don't do it. So please first isolate and then you square both sides. Now I'm going to simplify this as far as possible, multiplying out to see what kind of an equation it is. And it is again quadratic, which means I have to get equal to 0. That is so important, that equal to 0. It's now a normal trinomial where x minus 8 and x plus 3, which gives me two answers, x equal to 8 and x equal to negative 3. At this moment, a lot of my matrics go, oh, I am done. I can now go and party. Next question, next question. But they lose 1 mark. Why do they lose 1 mark? Because they did not test. So whenever you see square root in a sum, test, test, test. If I substitute 8 into the left-hand side, I get the root of 8 plus 28, which is 6. But if I substitute it on the right, I get negative 6. So x can't be equal to 8. But what if I substitute negative 3 in there? Now the left-hand side is equal to the right-hand side. Yes! So therefore x can be equal to 3. Sorry for doing the cross out there. I crossed out the wrong one. I should have just crossed out the 8. So please remember this. With a square root, number 1, isolate. Number 2, after you've solved, then you have to test your answers. Test left, test right. Do they equal? Does your left equal your right? And I can guarantee you with almost 100% certainty, one of your answers will be not applicable. Ladies and gents, I'm having so much fun. In our next video, we are going to look at question 1.2 of your exam, and maybe even 1.3 in one video. Let's see how I can keep these videos not too long. But please tune into our next video where we're going to continue working through this paper. Have a beautiful rest of your day. Talk to you soon. Cheers.